Hello and welcome to another O&DR Modurol video. This is video MT06 in our series of XK8 videos detailing how we converted our automatic Jaguar XK8 into manual. Those of you watching the series have made another purchase. I'm not talking about this in this particular video, but it's a bit of an update. To suit my custom flywheel, I've actually bought a clutch, so another bit of expense has been taken care of. Anyway, so I've got a clutch. This video though is all about the pedal box assembly and the servo, etc., and the difference between the 3-bolt servo and the 4-bolt servo. So I'm going to go through it in as much detail as possible because I quite like to take the opportunity as I'm messing about with the pedal box, introducing the clutch pedal, to upgrade if possible, and I think this might be an opportunity. We'll go through the detail. So in this video we're going to break it down into several sections. Section 1 then, we're going to look at why did they change and when did they change. Section 2 then, we'll look at the difference in the master cylinder. Section 3, the pedal arm. Section 4, the servos. Section 5, the pedal boxes, and finally Section 6, a summary of all the changes. So first of all then, why did they change the brake pedal assembly? Well, first of all, let's take a look at why they're called a 3-bolt and a 4-bolt servo. So there are literally 3 or 4 bolts connecting the servos to the pedal boxes, and that is where the name comes from, but there are more differences. Originally in the XJS, the forerunner to the XK8, pedal boxes were initially made from aluminium and used 4 bolts, as you can see here. Now, Jaguar then converted the XJS pedal boxes to plastics and using the 3 bolts. Now, the XK8 started with a very similar design, and until for model year 2000 they changed. So if we take a look at page 15, it goes into all the details. So just reading from the model year change sheet, the changes to the braking system include pre-model year 2000 running changes to the brake hardware for 2000 model year and the introduction of a more advanced anti-lock braking ABS system. The running changes then were XK front discs went from 305 to 325 front brake discs as previously fitted to the XKR and SC sedan models. And the significant thing for us here, the brake booster and the pedal assembly. On the XK and the XJ series vehicles, running changes have been made to the foot brake pedal assembly and the brake booster unit to improve brake feel and effort and reduce pedal travel. A shorter pedal arm is used and a new booster unit produces a greater jump in boot pressure, approximately double the previous pressure in response to initial pedal movement. The boost unit is now fixed via 4 studs to the pedal box. So basically Jaguar was changing back to the 4-bolt design. Now I think this was down to some road test reviews that gave feedback saying that there was excessive pedal travel and a very soft brake feel. So we're going to compare the pedal box assemblies of the 3-bolt, as you see at the top, from the beginning of the production right up to model year 1999, and then the 4-bolt from 1999 to from model year 2000 to model year 2002. We're going to take them apart and examine them in all the detail. Just for reference, model year 2002 on, the 4.2 litre cars had a slightly different servo, the part numbers etc. are different, but it does retain the 4-bolt design. We're going to look at the pedal box, the servo and the master cylinder in all their glorious detail. So first of all, section 2 then, the master cylinder. So 3-bolt servos are easily spotted as they have black master cylinders. The 4-bolt servos have actually silver master cylinders, and they both share the same brake fluid reservoir design, and the part numbers are all there. Externally, the cylinders are different lengths, as you can see here clearly in the picture. The 3-bolt cylinder external length is approximately 126 millimeter. The 4-bolt cylinder external length is slightly longer at 146 millimeter. That's basically 20 mil longer than the 3-bolt. The 3-bolt cylinder has the number 25 marked on the side of the cylinder. Now I believe this indicates an internal diameter of the piston of 25 millimeter or 1 inch. The 4-bolt cylinder also has 25 marked on the cylinder, so I'm assuming they're the same diameter at 25 millimeters. To remove the master cylinder then, you need to remove the 2 nuts securing it to the servo. They're basically M8 nuts, and you can use a 30 millimeter spanner just to loosen them off and remove it. You then pull the cylinder off to remove it from the servo. It's really just as easy as that. You don't need to bleed the brakes if you're actually doing this on the car, as the servos don't have any connection to the brake fluid system. So if you want to change your servo or have a problem with the servo, you don't have to also remove the brake master cylinder, and it does save you having to bleed the brakes again. The 3-bolt master cylinder has a proportion, quite a large proportion of its cylinder inside the servo itself. You can see that there. Now, that amount is actually 33 millimeters, of which is inside the servo. The body and the shaft diameter are shown there also. The 4-bolt cylinder is quite different. It only has 11 millimeters inside the servo, and this is where the differences start to become apparent. There's actually quite a lot less inside the servo itself. However, the overall cylinder lengths aren't exactly the same, but they're very, very similar. The 3-bolt cylinder is approximately 154 millimeters long if you measure it just at the end there past the extra bit of casting, and also the 4-bolt cylinder is approximately the same length at 154 millimeters. One thing that became immediately apparent when you're handling the servo is a 3-bolt, albeit it's painted black, is actually 1.5 kilograms, but the 4-bolt servo, which actually looks silver but it's actually just aluminium, is considerably lighter, 42% lighter, at 0.85 of a kilogram. The next thing is to compare them. Do they have the same stroke? So in order to test the cylinder stroke length, I wrap the end of each cylinder with a bit of tape. And then, before we mention that, the booster, you can see the booster to cylinder seal, just as indicated by the arrow there. You need to make sure that's in good condition when you put it all back together. So testing the cylinder length then, I used a screwdriver to compress the cylinder and then actually push the tape along the shaft of the master cylinder. And I could actually then measure that movement of the tape to judge how much the stroke was. So in this case, the 3-bolt servo was 28.5 millimeters approximately. When I measured the 4-bolt, it also had a very, very similar stroke. So I'm assuming they both have the same stroke. So we can now calculate. We've got the diameter and we've got the stroke or the travel. We can then calculate the maximum fluid moved by each cylinder, so we can basically work out that it's basically 14.5 cc or half an ounce of fluid that these cylinders are displacing. Basically the same. pedal arms then, section 3 pedal arms. So very quickly it became apparent that both 3 and 4 bolt assemblies use the same pedal arms. The part numbers are exactly the same, even the revision letters A, C are the same. These are obviously right-hand drive pedals, left-hand drive obviously have a slightly different number. If you want to remove the pedal, you need to remove the booster joint pin safety clip. You just unclip it and pull it off, and you push out the joint pin, slide it out. It can be tricky to get out because these cars are 20 years old. Everything seems to like to stay together. You can actually then remove the main pivot bolt using a 13mm and a 17mm spanner or a socket. You just need to undo the nut and bolt, and the bolt slides out easily. Once you've got it out, we actually measured the 2 arms. I mean, they're the same, but the length is about 18 inches or 175mm or 18 5/8 long. Interesting, the pedal arms are very thick. They're 15mm thick at the hinge end, and they taper down to about 12.7 or a ½ inch down at the pedal pad end. The interesting thing here is that obviously I'm going to attempt to bend these to suit my manual pedal setup, and this is not going to be easy to bend. The brake pad pedal rubbers are also the same, if you're interested in that. Section 4 then, the servo. So the overall length of the master cylinder and the servos are roughly the same, as you can see here. Externally though, the servos are quite different lengths, so to match the different lengths of the master cylinders. The 3-bolt servo length is roughly 150mm. It has an external diameter of 210. The 4-bolt servo length is actually 120mm. It's 30mm shorter than the 3-bolt, and it shares the same external diameter, 210mm. So the internals, the servo is quite different. When we took the master cylinder off the 3-bolt servo, you could see the connection shaft of the servo was deep inside. The shaft was inboard circa 30mm. The 4-bolt servo looked very different. You can see the shaft clearly inside the servo. And the shaft was slowly slightly inboard, circa 3mm. And if you actually look inside the servo itself, the inside design is considerably different. So they're not just different sizes of the same thing. There's something quite strange going on, or quite different going on inside. I'm not quite sure how they work, but they are considerably different. We now need to remove the pedal box to take a closer look at the other end of the servo. To do that, you need to remove the retaining nuts which sit inside the pedal box. Here you can see the 4-bolt servo version. The 3-bolt is basically very similar. You need a ratchet, an extension and a flexible joint to do that, and a 13mm socket. Just undo those nuts, and once the nuts are removed, it just pulls apart from the pedal box. It's very, very easy. There is a gasket in between the two. They're the part numbers and what have you. Obviously they're quite different depending on which design you have. If you're interested, here's the part numbers for the 3-hole and the 4-hole fixing servos. Now we've got that end of it apart. You can see the different sort of pressings. You can see the coated, there's sort of gold coating on the steel pressing there, and the outer diameters are quite different. So the round pressing has a diameter, the 3-bolt round pressing has a diameter of 61.3mm, and the 4-bolt has a diameter it has a sort of a square pressing, but that diameter is a lot larger. It's 67 millimeters, which equates to a 20% increase in the area of that that piston or whatever is in there. The servo bolts are also different sizes. The 3-bolt servo uses 3 M10 studs. Part numbers are there. You need a 17mm socket to remove those. And the 4-bolt, albeit has 4 bolts, they're actually M8. They're a slightly smaller studs. 13mm socket needed to remove those M8 lock nuts. At the master cylinder end, the master cylinder fixing bolts are actually this. The studs are at the same pitch circle diameter, or PCD, at 90mm, but they're at different angles, so you can't fit the wrong cylinder on the wrong servo, because your brake fluid reservoir is going to be at a queer angle. So a bit of a error proofing, I think, of the different servo designs and cylinders. Section 3 then, the pedal box itself. I think this was most interesting to take a look at these in trying to fit a clutch pedal. So 3 and 4 bolt assemblies use a different brake switch brackets, which is bolted to the bottom of the pedal box. The brake pedal switch part numbers are there. Both use a micro switch to sense the brake pedal is depressed. So if you have any brake pedal issues, it's just down to that tiny little micro switch in there, which is available, and you can repair that if necessary. The position of the switch is changed from the 3-bolt to the 4-bolt. I believe the 4-bolt is actually a lot easier to change, although it is tricky, because there are actually some studs and nuts that can be removed, so you can remove the whole sensor assembly, whereas the original 3-bolt design is integral to the brackets. You've got to remove the complete bracket, whereas with the 4-bolt it's a bit easier to change. Interestingly, if you'll take a look at page 18 of the XK8 Bible, thanks to Gary Van Remotel, he describes how to do that on his later car, his 4.2 litre car, but I think basically the same idea. And you can see the later cars actually have 2 micro switches, which is something to do with the cruise control. And he also describes the Omron micro switch reference number if you need to replace it. So thanks, Gary, and keep up the good work with the XK8 Bible. On the pedal box, then you've got the corresponding bolt clearance holes, 3-bolt and 4-bolt, obviously 10 and 8mm clearance holes. The main bore diameters, again, are quite different to suit those servo piston diameters. You've got diameter 64mm and 70mm. They both actually share the same bolt pattern to fix the bulkhead. Obviously, they didn't change the body in white when they uprated this, and the dimensions there for your reference. The height of the main pivot is also the same, about 106mm. The 4-bolt pedal box is obviously a lot wider at the top to accommodate the extra bolt. There's more reinforcement around the nuts, and the plastic actually on the 4-bolt pedal box is actually thicker by roughly 50%. The 3-bolt, the plastic moulding was 4.7mm thick, whereas the new 4-bolt, or the later 4-bolt, was 7mm, and it had those bosses around the fixing points you can see in the circle. So it's quite a step up in rigidity of the pedal box, I would think. The main pivot widths were roughly the same. Obviously, it's putting the same pedal in there. Now, the body shapes are different, obviously because you got that extra bolt. That means you're on the 4-bolt design, there's actually less room by the side of it to incorporate your clutch master cylinder. As you can see here, you've got a little bit more room on the 3-bolt servo, probably about 12 millimeters or half an inch extra to squeeze it in there. But we'll come into that in later videos. Section 6 then, the summary. So master cylinders, this is the differences between the 3 and the 4-bolt. So both master cylinders have a diameter of 25 millimeter with the same stroke, so they displace the same amount of fluid, but they have different mounting flanges to suit the different servo designs. The pedal arms are exactly the same. The servos then, the 4-bolt is a shorter squat body and it has a large drive diameter, a larger driver diameter, and it has quite a different internal design. So I believe the major part of the change uplift is in the servo itself, and I'm assuming this is to get that improved brake feel and the initial ×2 brake force on initial pedal depression. The pedal box itself then, obviously you've got more bolts on the 4 bolts, and the actual plastic is thicker and it's more reinforced, so the whole pedal box is quite a bit stiffer on 4 bolts. So I think those two things, the servo and the pedal box, are the big changes. The actual master cylinder and the fluid displacement is going to be the same. So looking at this, it looks like it's going to be a straightforward swap out and improvement. So there you go, those are the differences. Are they significant or not? I don't know, possibly not. It could be just customization through the Jaguar model range, or it could actually be an improvement. Anyway, I'm going to fit the 4-bolt servo assembly, as it were, and I'll find out the difference. So if you want to find out, please like, comment, share and subscribe for more XK8 videos. Bye bye.